The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. Introduction. Part 4. How to use it. One of the great difficulties in the new order of thought is that we are likely to indulge in too much theory and too little practice. As a matter of fact, we only know as much as we can prove by actual demonstration. That which we cannot prove may or may not be true, but that which we can prove certainly must be and is the truth. Of course, the theory of any scientific principle goes beyond its application at any given stage of the unfoldment of that principle and the evolution of its accomplishments. If this were not true, there would be no progress in any science. The sciences are objectively real to us only insofar as we demonstrate them, and until demonstrated, they are suppositional, so far as practical results are concerned. If there is any field of research where the practical application is necessary, it is in the metaphysical field. The reason being that the principle of metaphysics seems less tangible to the average person than does the principle of other sciences. As a matter of fact, all principles are as intangible, but the world at large has not yet come to understand the principle of mental practice in the same light that it considers other given principles of life and action. Its apparent intangibility is lessened whenever and wherever anyone actually demonstrates the supremacy of spiritual thought force over apparent material resistance. It is easy enough to rush about shouting that there are no sick people, but this will never heal those who appear to be sick. It is easy to proclaim that there are no needy. Anyone can say this, whether he be wise or otherwise. If we are to prove such statements to be facts in our experience, we shall be compelled to do more than announce a principle, no matter how true it may be. There is no doubt about the immutability and the availability of the law. The law is infinite. It is right where we happen to be at any given time. It occupies all space and fills every form with differentiations of itself. The law also flows through us because it flows through everything, and since we exist, it must be in and through us. This is the crux of the whole matter. Infinite and immutable as the law is, ever present and available as it must be, the potential possibility of all human probability, it must flow through us in order to manifest for us. It has been proved that by thinking correctly and by a conscious mental use of the law of mind, we can use it to do definite things for us, through us. By conscious thinking, we give conscious direction to it, and it, consciously or unconsciously, responds to our advance along the line of our conscious or subconscious direction. It must and will respond to everyone, because it is law, and law is no respecter of persons. We are surrounded by an intelligent force and substance from which all things come, the ultimate essence in the invisible and subjective world, of all visible and objective forms and conditions. It is around us in its original state, ready and willing to take form through the impulse of our creative belief. It works for us by flowing through us. This law we did not create. This law we cannot change. We can use it correctly only as we understand and use it according to its nature. Hence, it follows that if we believe that it will not work, it really works by appearing to not work. When we believe that it cannot and will not, then, according to the principle, it does not. But when it does not, it still does. Only it does according to our belief that it will not. This is our own punishment through the law of cause and effect. We do not enter in because of our doubts and fears. It is not a punishment imposed upon us by the Spirit of God, but an automatic result of failing constructively to use the law of God. God does not punish the mathematician who fails to obtain the right answer to his problem. The thought of the unsolved problem does punish him until he applies the right principle and thus secures the desired result. Thus, sin and punishment, righteousness and salvation are logical reactions of the universe to the life of the individual. When we are dealing with real life, with thoughts, impulses, emotions, etc., we are dealing with causation, with original cause, and we should be most careful how we deal with such powers and forces. In dealing with this subtle power of mind and spirit, we are dealing with a fluent force. It is forever taking form and forever deserting the form which it has taken. Thus, a practitioner of this science should not be confused over any given form, but should know that any form which is not of the original harmony is subject to change. The original spirit is harmony. It is beauty and truth and everything that goes with ultimate reality. The universe is not divided against itself. We should learn to control our thought processes and bring them into line with reality. Thought should tend more and more toward an affirmative attitude of mind that is positive, stable, and above all else, toward a real unity with spirit that is already complete and perfect. We should be able to look a discordant fact in the face and deny its reality, since we know its seeming reality is borrowed from illusion, from chaos and old night. Our standard is one of perfection. Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. We should be able to look at a wrong condition with the knowledge that we can change it. The realization that we have this ability must be gained by the application of our knowledge. The practice of the science of mind calls for a positive understanding of the spirit of truth, a willingness to let this inner spirit guide us with the conscious knowledge that the law of the Lord is perfect. And we must believe this to be a fact. Insofar as our thought is in accord with this perfect law, it will accomplish and nothing can hinder it. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away, said the beautiful Jesus, as he strove to teach his disciples the immutability of the law of righteousness. A practitioner uses thought definitely and for specific purposes, and the more definitely he uses the law, the more directly will it respond to him. A false fact is neither person, place, nor thing to the one who uncovers it, and once uncovered it has no place in which to hide. The illusion, seen and understood, is made negative in the experience of the one who suffered by it. While it is true that wrong conditions exist, they could not remain unless there were someone to experience them. Consequently, the experience must be in consciousness. Change the consciousness, and the false condition will disappear. Conditions are not entities. We are entities. Cannot that which is conscious cast out that which has no consciousness? If we properly understood, we would be able to remove false conditions as easily as Jesus did. He knew, but our faith is weak. We must strengthen it, and we can. Let us analyze this. One finds himself impoverished. He wishes to change his condition. He knows that it is not in accord with ultimate reality, that the Spirit imposes no limitations. Therefore, he knows that his apparent limited condition has no real law to support it. It is simply an experience of consciousness. He wishes a definite result in the opposite direction. First, he realizes that the law of life is a law of liberty, of freedom. He now states that this law of liberty is flowing through him and into all of his affairs. But the image of his limitation persists. Here is a definite contradiction of his statements of freedom. Right here, he must stop and declare that these images of limitation are neither person, place, nor thing, that they have no power, personality, nor presence, and no real law to support them. He does not believe in them, and they cannot operate through him. He is free from their influence forever. He then begins to fill his thought with the idea of faith, the expectancy of good, and the realization of plenty. He senses and mentally sees right action in his life. He puts his whole trust in the law of good, and it becomes very real to him as he definitely speaks it into his being and into the being of his affairs. He denies anything and everything that contradicts his realization of this truth. At this point of realization, he meets a friend who immediately begins a tale of woe about hard times, bad business conditions, etc. And should he listen to this tale of the serpent, he might reverse his previous affirmations and make negative his former mental and spiritual concept. This does not mean that he should refuse to hold conversation with people for fear they will neutralize the position which he has taken in his mind, but that he should refuse mentally to accept the false position. Then he can talk with anyone and not be disturbed. The time will come when we will let our conversation be in heaven and refuse to talk about, read, or think about those things that ought not to be. But someone will say, should we refuse to look at sickness, poverty, and unhappiness? This is not what we are discussing. We will not refuse to help the helpless or lift up the fallen, but we will refuse to wallow in the mud because of our sympathies. And if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into the ditch. Of all the people in the world, the ones who have come the nearest to touching the seamless garment of truth have been the most sympathetic and the greatest lovers of the race. Jesus said, "And I, if I be lifted up, not dragged down, will draw all men unto me." We are in the world and of it, and it is good that it is so. The world is all right when we view it correctly. Who knows what would transpire if all men would speak the truth? It has never yet been tried. But let not the mouth of the profane hinder those who would enter, thereby keeping them from entering. The world has never yet followed the simple ethics of Jesus, yet it is loud in its proclamation that it is Christian. This statement is not written in a spirit of controversy. It is one of conviction, and will make its appeal only to those who are convinced. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. Let us return to the man who really wishes to demonstrate the supremacy of spiritual thought force over apparent material resistance. Let us put his treatment in the first person, impersonating him for the purpose of clarity. I am a center in the divine mind, a point of God-conscious life, truth, and action. My affairs are divinely guided and guarded into right action, into correct results. Everything I do, say, or think is stimulated by the truth. There is power in this word that I speak, because it is of the truth and it is the truth. There is perfect and continuous right action in my life and my affairs. All belief in wrong action is dispelled and made negative. Right action alone has power, and right action is power, and power is God, the living Spirit Almighty. This Spirit animates everything that I do, say, or think. Ideas come to me daily, and these ideas are divine ideas. They direct me and sustain me without effort. I am continuously directed. I am compelled to do the right thing at the right time, to say the right word at the right time, to follow the right course at all times. All suggestion of age, poverty, limitation, or unhappiness is uprooted from my mind and cannot gain entrance to my thought. I am happy, well, and filled with perfect life. I live in the Spirit of truth, and am conscious that the Spirit of truth lives in me. My word is the law unto its own manifestation, and will bring to me, or cause me to be brought to its fulfillment. There is no unbelief, no doubt, no uncertainty. I know, and I know that I know. Let every thought of doubt vanish from my mind, that I may know the truth, and the truth may make me free. The truth is instantaneous in its demonstration, taking only such time in its unfoldment as is inherent in the law of a logical and sequential evolution. In this invisible law of unfoldment, we must come to trust, and although we do not see the way, we must believe that the way is, and is operative. We must trust the invisible, for it is the sole cause of that which is visible. Things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. Healing and demonstration take place as our minds become attuned to the truth of being. There is no process of healing, but there is generally a process in healing. This process is the time and effort which we undergo in our realization of truth. The one who wishes scientifically to work out his problems must daily take the time to meditate and mentally treat the condition, no matter what the apparent contradictions may be. He is working silently in the law, and the law will find an outlet through his faith in it. This law is the law which puts the act into all action. It is the invisible actor, working through us to will and to do. As a result of right treatment, the mold formed in the subjective mind by the treatment makes possible a concrete manifestation. The treatment is an intelligent energy in the invisible world. It is a spiritual entity working through the law of mind, and it is an actual force now consciously directed. Therefore, it must produce specific results. This will not seem strange to those who have given thought to the subject, as the primordial word of Creator is the only thing which explains creation. So every man's word, partaking of this original nature as it does, must reproduce the creative function in his life at the level of his consciousness of the one life, back of, in and through, all. A treatment is a spiritual entity in the mental world and is equipped with power and volition, as much power and volition as there is faith in it, given to it by the mind of the one using it, and operating through the law. It knows exactly how to work and what methods to use and just how to use them. We do not put the power into this word, but we do let the power of the law flow through it, and the one who most completely believes in the power will produce the best results. This is the law of cause and effect again. When one gives a treatment for right action and does not believe that right action will be the result, he makes his own treatment negative. Therefore, we should spend much time in convincing ourselves of the truth of our treatments. Now, this is not a power of will, but a power of choice. We do not put the power into the treatment, and we will take out of the treatment only as much as we believe is in it. If one doubts his ability to give an effective treatment, he should specifically treat himself to remove this doubt. He should say something like this, but not necessarily these words. I am convinced that this word has power, and I firmly believe in it. I trust it to produce the right results in my life, or in the life of the one for whom I am using my word. We should work, not with anxiety, but with expectancy, not by coercion, but with conviction, not through compulsion, but in a state of conscious recognition and receptivity. We do not have to drive or push, but we must accept and believe. We should then leave everything to the law, expecting a full and complete proof of our faith. We shall not be disappointed nor chagrined, for the law is our faithful servant. One should treat any given proposition until he proves his principle, no matter how long it takes. We should treat until we get results, until there comes into our objective experience the actual outpouring of our subjective words. When working for someone else, speak the name of this person into mind, then proceed with the treatment. Should someone come to you with the question, am I too old to find my rightful place? What are you as a practitioner to reply? You explain that there is no recognition of age in truth, that everyone has his place in truth, that God does not withdraw himself from us at a certain age, for God is omnipresent. In this presence, every being is fully provided for at every age. A practitioner consciously removes the apparent obstruction and leaves the field open to a new influx of spirit. He resolves things into thoughts, dissolves the negative appearance in the condition by recognizing only perfection. The practitioner must know and must state that there are no obstacles in the pathway of truth. He must know that his word, being the activity of the truth, removes all obstructions from the pathway of his patient, or the one for whom he is working. If the obstruction is the result of a hangover of belief from past years, the practitioner must know that no past mistake can hinder or obstruct the flow of divine intelligence through God's idea, which is perfect man, manifesting the attributes of God in freedom, happiness, activity, and power, and that this truth is now made manifest in his life. The patient should try to be receptive, not to the will of the practitioner, but to the purpose of the universe. That is, the patient should expect results and should be willing to give up anything and everything that would hinder the demonstration. Perfect belief is the beginning and the end of all good mental work. The mental attitude of the practitioner is one of denial toward every false condition that opposes the principle of life as one of absolute perfection. God's world is perfect, and this is the principle we have to demonstrate. Spiritual things must be spiritually discerned, and when we are ready and willing spiritually to discern, we shall find a ready response from the invisible into the visible. Let us do our work conscientiously and thoroughly, and leave the results to that law which is perfect. A new light is coming into the world. We are on the borderland of a new experience. The veil between spirit and matter is very thin. The invisible passes into visibility through our faith in it. A new science, a new religion, and a new philosophy are rapidly being developed. This is in line with the evolution of the Great Presence, and nothing can hinder its progress. It is useless, as well as foolish, to make any attempts to cover this principle, or to hold to it as a vested right of any religion, sect, or order. The truth will out. The Spirit will make itself known. Happy are we if we see these things which, from the foundation of the human race, have been longed for by all aspiring souls. True thought deals directly with first cause, and this science is the study of first cause, spirit, or truth, that invisible essence, that ultimate stuff and intelligence from which everything comes, the power back of creation, the thing itself. End of part 4. And that's the end of the introduction. So before we actually get into part 1 of the book, this was just Ernest Holmes letting us know what we're in store for and what it is that we're going to be discovering in this book. And in synopsis of part 4, he's explaining how we are to use this law and this power. And he makes it very clear that it all has to come through our own consciousness, and that we have to be very definitive and we have to be very specific in making our statements of truth. And he's also making it very clear that we have to deny all false conditions. Anything that's not good is not of God. That's an easy way to remember it. If it's not love, it's not true. If it's not good, it's not true. If it's a disease, that's not God. If it's poverty, that's not God. If it's sickness, if it's bad behavior, none of that is God. And all of that has to be denied. And you have to be able to see beyond appearances. And if we believed in the race consciousness way of thinking for a long time, that the world's not perfect, that, there's a mixture of good and evil, that sickness can just come to us out of nowhere. If we've been believing in all of these things, or believing in lack, maybe that you don't think there's enough for everybody, stuff like that. So it might take a little while for our old conditions to fade away. There's going to be like a lag time. So you're going to start thinking the truth, and you're going to affirm your truth principles. You're going to deny away the false. And in the beginning, there might be a little bit of lag time. But that's just your old conditions hanging on to your old way of thinking. And all of that will go away if you persist in adhering to these truth principles. So don't be discouraged if you don't instantly get results. You will get the results. And I'm very excited to get into the actual substance of the book. Part 1, coming next.